The alarm on my wrist screamed before I even saw the shape in the ice. I was 300 meters below the frozen crust of a dead moon, alone, running low on air, and something massive had just answered a signal I never meant to send. My name is Daniel Holt, and until that moment, I was nobody, a scavenger, a man who cut scrap metal out of forgotten wrecks and sold it to people who didn't ask questions. The moon was called Varith Station 9 by the traders who avoided it. They said the whole sector was cursed, that ships went in and never came back with their minds intact. I didn't believe in curses. I believed in credits, so when my scanner picked up a hull buried under 1,000 years of ice, I didn't turn back. I drilled. The wreck was enormous, bigger than anything I had ever pulled scrap from. Its metal skin was scorched black in long streaks, like something had clawed across it and lost. I found a breach in the outer plating, barely wide enough for my suit, and I slipped inside before my better judgment could stop me. The corridors were dead silent. No hum, no light. Nothing but my own breathing echoing back at me. Frost covered every surface. I moved deeper, my flashlight cutting through centuries of dust, until I found a chamber at the center of the ship that didn't look like anything I had seen before. A single chair faced a wall of dark glass, and beneath the chair, a console pulsed once with a faint blue light, like it had been waiting. I should have left right then. Instead, I reached out and touched it. The whole ship woke up at once. Lights bloomed to life down every corridor behind me, running like a heartbeat through metal veins. The floor trembled as old engines coughed and caught, and then a voice filled the chamber, calm, clear, and impossibly steady after however many centuries of silence. "Command authorization confirmed," the voice said. "Welcome back, Captain Holt." I froze. My own name, spoken by a machine that had been buried since before recorded history remembered ships like this existing. "That's not possible," I said, my voice shaking through the suit radio. "I've never been here. I don't command anything." "Biometric and genetic markers match archived command lineage at 98% confidence," the voice replied. "You carry the signature of Fleet Commander Alistair Holt. I am Vera, tactical intelligence of this vessel. I have been dormant for 1,042 years, awaiting a verified successor." I laughed, but it came out broken. My grandmother used to tell stories about an ancestor who vanished in the old wars, a man the family talked about only in whispers. I always thought it was just that, a story, something old people said to make the past feel bigger than it was. "There is no successor," I said. "There's just me, and I'm leaving." "You should know what you are leaving behind," Vera said, "and what is coming for you." That was when the second alarm hit, this one from my own suit. Something outside the wreck had detected the power surge. Something was moving toward us, fast, cutting through the ice above. Vera's voice sharpened. 3 vessels, unregistered, approaching from high orbit. Their transponders match a salvage guild, known for erasing witnesses rather than sharing rewards. They will reach this position in 11 minutes. I had heard of that guild. Nobody who crossed them told stories about it afterward, because nobody who crossed them lived long enough to tell stories at all. I had walked into this wreck looking for scrap metal. Now 3 ships full of people who did not believe in mercy were coming to bury me with it. "I need to run," I said. "Running will not save you," Vera answered. "Your suit's beacon has already been read. They know exactly where you are. But this vessel is not defenseless. It never was." The floor shifted again, gentler this time, like the ship was stretching after a long sleep. Screens along the walls flickered on, showing diagrams I didn't understand. Weapon schematics, power routing, systems with names that meant nothing to a man who spent his life cutting bolts out of dead hulls. "I don't know how to use any of this," I said.
"You do not need to know,"
Vera said. "I know. I have always known. I only needed someone with the right blood to give the order." I stood there in that frozen chamber, with my heart slamming against my ribs, and for the first time in my life, I understood that the story my grandmother told wasn't just a story, it was a warning she never finished. "What happened to you?" I asked. "Why were you buried here?" "There is time for the truth," Vera said, "but very little of it. Choose now, Captain. Flee this vessel and take your chances in the open ice, or trust the ship your family once commanded to carry you through what is coming." 11 minutes had already become 8. I thought about running. Every instinct in me wanted to bolt back through that breach and disappear into the tunnels I had drilled on the way in. But something in Vera's voice, something steady and certain, made me stay rooted to that spot. "Do it," I said. "Wake the ship up. All of it." The response was immediate. Deep beneath me, engines that had not fired in 1,000 years roared to life, shaking dust from the ceiling in soft gray clouds. The chair beneath the console unfolded itself, almost welcoming me, and I sat down without fully deciding to. "Initiating full systems restoration," Vera said. "Recommend you brace. This will be loud." It was more than loud. The whole moon seemed to groan as the wreck tore itself free from 1,000 years of ice, plates of frozen crust cracking away like shattered glass. Through a viewport that had just come to life, I watched daylight pour in for the first time since before my ancestors were born. "They are entering weapons range," Vera said, her voice calm even as mine climbed toward panic. "Would you like me to explain our options, or would you prefer I simply choose the one most likely to keep you alive?" "Just keep me alive," I said. The ship moved. Not gracefully, not yet, groaning under systems that hadn't stretched their limbs in centuries, but it moved with a kind of quiet confidence that no scavenger vessel could ever match. Warning lights bathed the chamber in red as the 3 guild ships opened fire, their shots cutting bright lines through the dark. Vera answered without asking permission again. Silver light bloomed from somewhere along the hull, and the incoming fire scattered off a shield I didn't know we had, shimmering and holding. I gripped the edges of the chair, watching numbers and diagrams race across the screens faster than I could follow, and somewhere in the noise, I realized I was not afraid anymore. I was something else, something closer to awe. "They are retreating," Vera said a moment later, almost gently. "Their scanners have identified the vessel class. They believe, correctly, that continuing this fight would not end favorably for them." I let out a breath I didn't know I had been holding. "That's it? They're just leaving?" "Reputation," Vera said, "outlives silence, Captain. This ship was not always hidden in ice. There was a time when its name alone was enough to end a conflict before it began." The 3 guild ships turned and vanished back into the dark, faster than they had arrived, and for the first time since I stepped into that frozen chamber, the ship around me felt less like a tomb and more like a home nobody had lived in for far too long. I sat back slowly, my hands finally steady. "Tell me what happened to my family, all of it, from the beginning." "With pleasure," Vera said, and there was something almost warm in the way she said it, like a friend who had been waiting a very long time to finally speak. "But first, Captain, let us take this ship somewhere safer to talk. There will be others coming, once word spreads of what woke today." I looked out at the open sky through the viewport, stars scattered endlessly beyond the retreating shapes of the guild ships, and for the first time in my ordinary, scrap-cutting life, I felt something my grandmother must have felt once too, long before the silence swallowed our family's story whole. I felt like I belonged to something bigger than myself. "Take us out then, Vera," I said. "Let's go find out who we used to be." The engines answered before I finished speaking, carrying us both up and away from the ice, into a sky that hadn't seen that ship's light in 1,000 years, and somewhere far behind us, whispers already began to spread among those who feared what had just woken up.